Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for coming here. The topic for my presentation is strategies to achieve effective business oral presentation skills. Now, let me begin. Here comes the outlines. There will be introduction, objectives, tips for preparing presentation, strategies for delivering presentation. Then I will discuss about voice modulation with its improvement methods. After that, I will put some special phrases to flourish the presentation. Finally, there will be learning and outcome followed by reference list. Moving on to introduction to effective oral presentation, a former United States Senator Daniel Webster said that if all my possessions were taken from me with the one exception, I would choose to keep the power of speech, for with it I would soon regain all the rest. This shows how important is speech for him. As Patil rightly said that modern world is dominated by increase in globalization with competition and business are mostly partnerships, joint ventures, or alliances. Consequently, the executive should communicate their opinion effectively. Bradbury argued that despite having brilliant proposals, some managers fail to explain and convince others. This is because of taking huge pain to follow the rigorous step to prepare the presentation skill. Fowler and Jones defines presentation as an effective approach to convey to mass of individuals. Baker and Thompson claims that in any profession there will be seminars, meetings, or conferences in which we have to demonstrate the ideas, enhance repetition, and affect decision not only by imparting information but also by energizing the subject. Thus, Mohammed claims that mastering of effective business oral presentation skill is essential to tremendously boost the career. Moving on to next slide, objectives. The aim of this presentation is to put some vital suggestion to deliver effective presentation. It offers strategies to transform avoider to acceptor, acceptor to seeker, and seeker to knockout presenter. The presentation is divided in mainly three sections. First section aims to provide general tips while preparing and presenting, and then second part puts focus on voice modulation. Lastly, I tried to put some important phrases for effective presentation. Moving on to next slide. According to Leeds, while preparation of presentation, the first step is to understand the expectation of audience. We should prepare to choose words in the way that it won't humiliate the clients or the staffs. As Darwin says that a short introduction with the purpose of presentation which attracts the audience attention need to be prepared. Documents and visuals should be prepared and proofread before the presentation day. The most important thing is to practice because practice plays the important role. Now moving on to the next slide. Now moving on to tips at the time of presentation. First thing is to connect with audience by being enthusiastic and honest. Besides this, we need to focus on the needs of audience by concentrating on core message. Make the strong beginning up by putting some stories. Also, to make it effective, body language plays a significant role. Body language make our facial expression, eye contact, posture, gestures, etc. Along with that, proper use of voice and fluency in speaking are also essential skill to bind the audience. Moving on to voice modulation. Voice modulation can be described as the fine tuning of the voice tone that assists the audience clearly hear and perceive the instant meaning of speech presented by a presenter. To convert an oral presentation more interesting, understandable, and memorable to listener, we must have skill of voice modulation. Even those who have natural melodious voice need to exercise their voice for modulation to acquire professional success. Moving on to next slide. Lips, jaws, and tongue are the most essential three speech organs. We do exercise for other parts of our body. Likewise, we need to exercise these three organs. Make a habit of reading aloud every day for a few minutes. Regular practice identifies the weakness together with ability, variety, and power the vocal organ has. Thus, such a habitual exercise will definitely help to get improvisation in voice modulation. Moving on to left sides, beside regular practice to improve voice modulation, we need to implement some other technical habits. For example, recording own speech at times and carefully listening it after it's for the faults. Beyond that, we should have to point out precisely how effective speakers makes variation in tone of their voice to get matching with their feelings. We may feel bored listening to lectures of someone like politicians, but I suggest to listen to the person who is expertise in a field that you are interested in. For example, I am very much interested in cosmology, and I am regularly listening the presentation of one of the greatest scientists and presenter of modern cosmology, Dr. Michio Kaku. In addition to this, you should have to develop a good habit to log in to a dictionary not only for the meaning of word but also for the exact pronunciation of word. Moving on to next slide. Ultimately, we have to use any opportunity that we will be getting to speak to improve it. You have to try speak despite you are not delivering good speech because failure is a path to success. As Manchester in a book, keep trying and work hard. The secret to success writes that failure gives challenges for next opportunity and improvement adds confidence and energizes to do it better next time. Now moving on to next slides. Now let me discuss about what should bear in mind while giving the oral presentation. We should convey message with pitch and tempo variation and avoid a monotonous tone. Normally, we need to speak at a normal rate of 125 to 150 words per minute, as Grammel and Zinkel says. Besides this, we have to put a stress at the right syllables to pronounce properly. We should produce loud voice so that everyone hears. We have to refrain from pause in between sentence and to minimize vocalize pauses and decrease nationalization words like mm. But at the same time will be reducing frequent repetition of phrases like you see what I mean, have you understood, understood, was it clear, clear, is it clear? Moving on to next slide. Now I would like to put some of the special phrases that could be added while presenting to florist presentation. While introducing, we have to give some personal information with phrases like "Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for coming." The topic of my today's meeting is "Shall we get started? Let's get the ball rolling." After this, we have to give an outline with phrases like I would like to give you a brief outline of my presentation, or my presentation consists of following parts. There is, or here is the agenda for the meeting, or the is divided into four main sections. Now moving on, we would have to connect the parts and show clear transition between these parts of the speech using phrases like in addition. Now I would like to look at I would like to move on to another part of the presentation. This leads me to next point, or moreover, when presenting, we need to exaggerate to make interesting about the topic by using like phrases. It's a really cool device. This device is awesome. The product I present is extraordinary. This is an outstanding example. Do try to use comparative analysis using graphs, charts or diagrams when presenting with slides. Lastly, we'll be concluding the main points of the oral presentation with phrases like let's summarize briefly what we have looked at. I would like to recap or in conclusion or I would like to sum up the main points, etc. So learnings and outcomes. At last, let's summarize briefly what we have looked at. I have discussed the effective tips while preparing and presenting presentation. We should prepare all of the required resources and to practice or rehearse. Moving on to tips while presenting, we should try to connect with the audience during whole presentation by putting stories, using appropriate gestures, and being enthusiastic. In second stage, I discussed about how to improve voice modulation. For this, we should have to do regular exercise. Finally, in last session, I gave some essential phrase to flourish the presentation. Thus, I am sure if you follow the steps offered in this presentation, you will be able to deliver effective oral presentation. Best of luck. Thank you.
गरिदिनु भयो